We like to believe we're good at reading people. We trust our gut, assume the best, and give second chances. But sometimes the person standing next to us, the one we laugh with, share secrets with, or even love, is not who they pretend to be. And ignoring the red flags doesn't make them disappear. Evil isn't always loud. It doesn't show up with flashing lights and eerie music. It often whispers, smiles, and blends in. But if you pay close attention, the signs are always there. We live in a world that often confuses vulnerability with weakness. We're taught to keep our guards up, to be careful with our emotions, to never let anyone see our fears, our doubts, or our struggles. But the truth is, vulnerability is not weakness. It is the most accurate measure of courage. Think about the moments in life that have shaped you the most, the times you took a risk, spoke your truth, let someone in, or stood up for what was right even when your voice shook. Every single one of those moments required vulnerability. It required you to open yourself up to the possibility of rejection, failure, or pain. But without that willingness to be vulnerable, real connection, growth, and authenticity are impossible. Evil people understand this, but they don't see vulnerability as a strength. They see it as an opportunity, they exploit it. They use it to manipulate, control, and break people down. They prey on those who are open and trusting because they know that a person who is vulnerable is also someone who feels deeply, who loves deeply, and who hopes deeply. And those are the very things they seek to destroy. But here's what they don't realize. True strength doesn't come from hiding behind walls. True strength is come from hiding behind walls. It comes from standing in the open and saying, this is me. My heart is open, my feelings are real, and I refuse to be ashamed of that. Being vulnerable means choosing honesty over pretense. It means refusing to live a life dictated by fear. And when faced with someone who tries to use your openness against you, vulnerability becomes your greatest weapon. Because the moment you stop hiding is the moment you take back your power. Yes, being vulnerable means you might get hurt. It means you might trust the wrong person. But it also means that you are truly living, not just existing behind a mask of indifference. It means you are showing up as your full, authentic self. And no matter how much someone tries to twist that into a weakness, the truth remains, only the truly brave have the courage to be vulnerable. Empathy is one of the most powerful human emotions. It's what allows us to connect, to understand, to see the world through someone else's eyes. It's what makes us reach out when someone is hurting, what compels us to help even when we gain nothing in return. But just as empathy has the power to heal, it also has the potential to be exploited. And evil people, those who lack genuine compassion, know this all too well. Empathy, the ability to feel with others. At its core, empathy is about stepping outside of yourself and into another person's experience. It's the quiet hand on a shoulder when no words can fix the pain. It's the friend who sits with you in your sadness instead of offering empty platitudes. It's the stranger who stops to help simply because they can. Empathy is selfless. It doesn't ask, what do I get out of this? It doesn't see kindness as a transaction. It exists purely because we, as human beings, are wired to connect. But there's a dark side to this, one that people with malicious intent are quick to exploit. Because empathy is a gift, and gifts can be stolen, used, and manipulated. Exploitation. When empathy becomes a weapon, evil people don't feel genuine empathy. They don't experience guilt the way others do. They don't lose sleep over the pain they've caused. But what they do have is an understanding of empathy, not to use it, but to manipulate those who do. They know how to twist a kind heart into a tool for their own gain. They'll use guilt to control, making you feel selfish for setting boundaries. They'll play the victim, weaving elaborate sob stories to make you question your own judgment. They'll pretend to be misunderstood, broken, or helpless, just enough to keep you invested in fixing them. And before you realize what's happening, your empathy has been turned into a leash. You excuse the inexcusable because they've been through a lot. You sacrifice your own well-being because they need you. You stay in toxic relationships, toxic friendships, toxic environments, not because you don't see the harm, but because your empathy convinces you that you can save them. But here's the hard truth. Empathy does not heal a person who thrives on exploitation. No amount of understanding will change someone who is committed to using you. No level of patience will fix a person who sees your kindness as a weakness. The difference between compassion and self-sacrifice, there is nothing wrong with being kind. There's a fine line between compassion and self-sacrifice. And once you cross it, you are no longer helping, you are being used. True empathy doesn't mean allowing yourself to be drained, manipulated, or controlled. True empathy means recognizing when your kindness is being taken advantage of and having the strength to walk away. Evil people will always test your boundaries. They will push, guilt trip, and manipulate to see how far they can go. But it's up to you to decide, is this real connection or is this control? Is this mutual or is this one-sided? Is my empathy being valued or is it being exploited? And if the answer points to exploitation, the most compassionate thing you can do for yourself and for your future is to walk away. Because real empathy, the kind that changes lives, should never come at the cost of your own. Shame is one of the most powerful emotions a person can feel. It cuts deeper than guilt, lingers longer than fear, and has the power to shape how we see ourselves. While guilt says, I did something bad, shame whispers, I am bad. And that is exactly why evil people use it to control others. If someone can make you feel ashamed of who you are, they can manipulate you. If they can convince you that you are unworthy, broken, or fundamentally flawed, they can keep you trapped. Because a person who is ashamed will bend over backward to prove their worth, even to the people who are hurting them. And that is where the cycle of control begins, how evil people use shame as a weapon. Shame doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's planted, nurtured, and carefully crafted. People with malicious intent know exactly how to make you question yourself. They don't attack you outright. Not at first. Instead, they plant tiny seeds of doubt, slowly chipping away at your confidence. They'll disguise insults as jokes, laughing at your insecurities in a way that makes you wonder if you're overreacting. They'll make backhanded comments like, you used to be so much fun, or I miss the old you, making you feel like you've lost something essential. They'll criticize your dreams, your choices, your personality, always with just enough subtlety to make you second guess yourself. And then when you finally call them out, they flip it on you. You're too sensitive, you can't take a joke, you're making a big deal out of nothing. Suddenly, the problem isn't their behavior, it's your reaction. And just like that, the shame deepens. You begin to question your own reality. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I am too much. And that's exactly where they want you. Shame keeps you small. The goal of shame-based control is simple, to keep you small. Because the smaller you feel, the easier you are to control. If they can make you believe that no one else will love you, you'll stay. If they can convince you that you're not smart enough, strong enough, or worthy enough, you won't challenge them. If they can make you feel like you are nothing without them, they never have to worry about you leaving. And the worst part, it works. Shame is a slow poison. It doesn't shatter you all at once. It erodes you bit by bit until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize yourself. You shrink, you apologize too much, you walk on eggshells. You become so desperate to please that you forget how to be. Breaking free from shame-based control, the first step in breaking free is recognizing the pattern. If someone in your life constantly makes you feel less than, if they use shame to keep you silent, dependent, or afraid, that is not love. That is not friendship. That is control. The second step, reclaim your power. Evil people use shame because they fear one thing above all else, a person who knows their worth. They don't want you to realize that you are strong, that you are valuable, that you don't need their approval to exist. Because the moment you recognize your own worth, their control shatters. You don't have to prove anything to someone who thrives on tearing you down. You don't have to justify your feelings, your choices, or your existence. You are not too much, too sensitive, or too difficult. You are exactly enough as you are. And the strongest thing you can do, the thing that terrifies them the most, is to stand tall, look them in the eye and say, I am not ashamed, you don't control me. Because the moment you stop believing their lies, they lose all their power, and you get your life back. Boundaries are one of the most powerful tools we have for protecting ourselves. They are the invisible lines that define what we will and will not accept in our lives. They tell the world how we expect to be treated, and more importantly, they teach us how to honor and respect ourselves. Yet, for many of us, setting boundaries feels uncomfortable. We hesitate, we worry about being perceived as selfish, rude, or unkind. We fear rejection, conflict, or hurting someone's feelings. But here's the truth. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about protecting your well-being. And the people who get the angriest when you set boundaries, those are the very people who benefited from you having none. What are boundaries and why do they matter? Boundaries are not walls. They are not meant to isolate us or keep people out. Instead, they act as a filter, allowing in the good while keeping out the toxic. Think of them as a protective force field, one that ensures your relationships are based on mutual respect, not manipulation or control. A strong boundary might sound like, I will not tolerate being yelled at or insulted. I am happy to listen, but I will not be guilt-tripped or manipulated. I love and care for you, but I cannot be responsible for fixing you. These statements are not cruel, they are not selfish, they are declarations of self-respect. And people who genuinely care about you will respect them. But toxic people, they will fight them. Why evil people hate boundaries? People who thrive on control, manipulation, and toxicity despise boundaries. Why? Because boundaries strip away their power. When you say no, they can no longer demand your time, energy, or emotional labor. When you set limits, they can no longer guilt trip or manipulate you into doing what they want. When you refuse to tolerate abuse, they can no longer control you through fear or shame. This is why toxic people will test, push, and violate your boundaries at every opportunity. They might ignore your requests and do what they want anyway. They might accuse you of being cold, selfish, or unloving, make you feel guilty for protecting your peace, play the victim, making you question if you're being too harsh. But here's what you need to understand. Healthy people respect boundaries. Unhealthy people resent them. Setting boundaries is an act of self-love. Many of us were raised to believe that putting others first makes us good people. We were taught that saying no is mean, that sacrificing our needs for others is noble, and that keeping the peace is more important than protecting ourselves. But self-sacrifice at the expense of your mental and emotional health is not kindness, It's self-abandonment. When you allow people to mistreat you, take advantage of you, or drain you, you are teaching them that their needs matter more than yours. But when you set a boundary, you send a different message. I matter too. This doesn't mean you don't care about others. It means you care about yourself as well. You can still love people and have limits. You can still be compassionate while refusing to be mistreated. How to enforce boundaries with toxic people. Setting a boundary is one thing, enforcing it is another. Toxic people will try to wear you down, manipulate your emotions, and push past your limits. That's why you need to stay firm. Here's how. Be clear and direct. Say exactly what you will and will not tolerate. Use I statements to express your needs. I will not engage in conversations where I am being insulted. Don't over-explain or justify yourself. Your boundaries are valid, period. Expect resistance. Toxic people will test you. Stay strong. They may call you selfish or try to guilt trip you. Ignore it. Remember, their anger at your boundaries is proof that they were benefiting from your lack of them. Follow through with consequences. A boundary without consequences is just a suggestion. If someone repeatedly disrespects your boundaries, limit or cut off contact. Don't argue or try to convince them. Let your actions speak louder than words. Release the guilt. Saying no does not make you a bad person. You do not have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. The right people will respect your limits. The wrong people will resent them. Let them. The freedom that comes with boundaries. The first time you set a boundary, it will feel uncomfortable. You might second guess yourself. You might worry about upsetting someone, but over time, you will realize something life-changing. You don't have to be available to everyone. You don't have to justify your limits. You don't have to keep people in your life who make you feel small. Boundaries do not push good people away. They push the wrong people away. They protect your energy, your peace, your sense of self. So if someone in your life reacts with anger, guilt tripping, or manipulation when you set a boundary, ask yourself, why would someone who claims to care about me be upset that I am protecting myself? That question alone will tell you everything you need to know. At the end of the day, boundaries are not about changing toxic people. They are about changing the way you allow yourself to be treated. And that is one of the most powerful things you will ever do. There comes a moment in life when you realize that standing alone is the only option left. Maybe it's after years of tolerating mistreatment, constantly bending to make others comfortable, or sacrificing your happiness just to keep the peace. Maybe it's after recognizing that some people will never change, no matter how much love, patience, or understanding you offer. And in that moment, you are faced with a choice. Stay and shrink, or walk away and grow. Choosing to stand alone is terrifying. It means stepping away from comfort, even if that comfort is toxic. It means letting go of people you once thought would always be in your life. It means facing the unknown without a safety net, but it also means something else, freedom. Why standing alone feels so hard, human beings are wired for connection. We crave belonging, love, and acceptance. From an early age, we are taught that strength is found in numbers, that being part of a group means we are safe, valued, and protected. So when you find yourself at a crossroads, realizing that the people around you are toxic, manipulative, or unsupportive, the idea of leaving can feel like a betrayal, not just of them, but of yourself. You question everything. What if I'm overreacting? What if no one else understands? What if I end up completely alone? These thoughts are normal, but they are also part of the fear that keeps people stuck in unhealthy situations far longer than they should be. But here's the truth. You can survive standing alone. You cannot survive losing yourself just to fit in. The cost of staying in the wrong place. When you surround yourself with the wrong people, those who manipulate, gaslight, or take advantage of your kindness, You pay a price, and that price is often yourself. You silence your voice just to avoid conflict. You accept mistreatment because you're afraid of confrontation. You tolerate behavior that makes you feel small, unworthy, or invisible. You keep hoping things will change even when deep down you know they won't. And over time, you become a stranger to yourself. The version of you that once dreamed big, spoke boldly, and moved freely is replaced by someone who walks on eggshells, questions their worth, and settles for less than they deserve. That is the real danger of refusing to stand alone, because when you stay in the wrong place for too long, you lose sight of who you were meant to be. The strength in walking away, the decision to walk away, to stand alone, does not mean you are weak. It does not mean you are giving up. It means you are choosing yourself. And that is the greatest act of strength there is. Walking away means choosing your peace over pleasing others, setting boundaries and actually enforcing them, no longer tolerating disrespect, manipulation, or abuse. Letting go of the need to be understood by people who refuse to see you clearly. It means recognizing that you deserve better, even if it means finding better alone. At first, it will feel lonely. The silence after cutting off toxic people will feel deafening. The space they once filled will feel empty. But over time, something incredible happens. That space is replaced with peace. You begin to feel lighter. You stop questioning yourself. You realize that being alone is not the same as being lonely. It is an opportunity to rediscover who you are without the weight of unhealthy relationships holding you down. The world opens up when you stand alone. When you remove toxic people from your life, you make room for those who truly deserve to be there. When you stop tolerating disrespect, you create space for real love, real friendships, and real support. When you stand alone, you stand in your power, and the people who are meant to be in your life, the ones who respect, support, and uplift you, will find their way to you, because you are no longer dimming your light to make others comfortable. You are shining as your full, unapologetic self. Evil does not always come with a warning sign. It does not always announce itself with cruelty or aggression. More often than not, it is subtle, disguised as love, concern, or even friendship. It works through shame, manipulation, and control, slowly chipping away at your confidence, your boundaries, and your sense of self. But here's what you must remember. You are not powerless. You have the right to protect yourself from those who exploit your empathy. You have the right to release shame that was never yours to carry. You have the right to set boundaries without explanation or guilt. You have the right to walk away from relationships that drain, diminish, or dishonor you. And most importantly, you have the right to stand alone if that's what it takes to reclaim your peace and dignity. True strength is not found in how much you endure, but in how fiercely you choose yourself, even when it means disappointing those who benefited from your silence. So as you move forward, ask yourself, who am I giving my energy to? Who am I allowing into my life? Are they lifting me up or are they tearing me down? Because at the end of the day, you are the guardian of your own soul. You are the one who decides what you will and will not tolerate. And when you finally choose yourself, your peace, your power, your worth, nothing and no one can take that away from you. Stand tall, set your boundaries, walk away when necessary, and never, ever shrink to make someone else comfortable.